Welcome back to another edition of Zero Blog 30. Today we have 3 rounds in the magazine. Round number 1, much to Cons' chagrin. There's been a new study that came out that says that people who cuss actually might be a little more intelligent and have a better vocabulary. Cons, I have to get your thoughts on that.
Well, we'll get into the story, but I think it's a little misleading. But we'll talk about it.
We'll see, Cons. Round number 2, Fox News had to retract a story based on some, I guess, terrible reporting that they did regarding Sergeant Nicole Gee, who was one of the 13 who were killed at Abbey Gate just a little over 2 years ago at this point. Fox News put out a story that said that her family had to pay $60,000 in order to get her remains returned back to the United States. That turned out to be false, and how Fox News handled that, actually bad. And finally, round number 3, another bad thing happened. Osprey had another incident over the weekend where there was a crash in Australia. And people all across the military landscape and really across the people who care about military members in the country want the Osprey to be shut down. So we're going to see how close that thing is actually to getting grounded, because it does seem like every couple of months there's a story of an Osprey that went down. Something happened with the maintenance that didn't get fixed. And the next thing you know, more service members are killed needlessly. So we'll see what's going on with that. And all of that today is going to be brought to you by our good friends at Today's episode of Zero Blog 30 is brought to you by our good friends at New Amsterdam Vodka. In partnership with New Amsterdam Vodka, Barstool is offering much-needed assistance to support the renovation of a selected VFW Post common area. We're also calling on our audience to help with this program because New Amsterdam Vodka has pledged $50,000 to renovate a VFW Post, and Stoolies can join in too by making your own contribution. If you're interested in donating, visit barstoolsports.com/wins4warriors to help us reach our goal. Again, that's barstoolsports.com/wins4warriors to help us reach our goal. We need you. We're winding down. We only got a week left, maybe not even a full week left. We need you to get those donations in because we want to make this place the best that we possibly can. So do $5, $10, whatever's left in your Venmo or Cash App or whatever PayPal account. Go to barstoolsports.com/wins4warriors to help us reach our goal, because we really, really want to do something amazing for these people who deserve it so much. All right, so Kate is back. We have Katie back. She went up to Boston. How was your trip to the Boston, the Barstool Awards, Kate? Did you have a good time?
I want to say yes, but I've been so sick that I did not have a good. It was great being there. It was great seeing everyone, but it was my final trip. Like, once you hit about 7 months, you're not supposed to fly and travel anymore. And I think I hit my peak of traveling while prego. I'm done. So
Yeah.
I have acute bronchitis. I feel like I've broken my ribs. I can't take a dump. My pets' heads are falling off. Everything's going wrong.
You were sick going into that trip, right? Mm-hmm. You were sick before you left.
And I thought, it'll clear up by the time I go. And then
yeah, because everybody knows getting on a plane is the remedy for when you feel horrible.
So if you hear me coughing throughout the show, I'll try my best. But no, I'm just not having a good time right now. But that's okay. That's okay.
I am straight up not having a good time.
Straight up not having a good time. It was really good to see everyone. And you know me, when I'm in like New York and Boston and wherever, because we were in both places, I like to go out and explore and like have a little me time, blah, blah, blah. And like, instead I was on my hands and knees in a hotel room crying on the phone to Pat, being like, I'm dying. So it just wasn't the same. It's more of a Babadook vibe this trip.
It seemed like you've been having a Babadook vibe the last like month with your sickness. You've been
a decade. That's fine.
I was glad though, because we used to have a thing where on Sunday mornings you would go out, get a little liquored up before you were Katie Mom. You would go out, get liquored up, have a good time out, and then you would come back Sunday morning. I was ready for a show on Instagram where you would go at your haters, where the dudes who were being dicks, you're about to go at them. We had a little bit of Katie clap back this weekend, which I was happy to see.
Oh, yeah. Let's get into that.
You're right. Whenever I was hungover with too much time on my hands, I would pick a troll out of all my trolls and I would go off. This time it was a bunch of guys.
Some poor bastard was going to get it.
Several men commented on how old I look now. I got dressed up for the Barstool Awards, and immediately like 15 dudes were like, you look old, like you're aging, dude. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. That's how time works.
You're 7.5 months pregnant and sick. You look great. Like, we were talking in the group chat. You look lovely, Kate. And then I was glad you didn't let him slide. You gave him the old what for.
Well, the weird thing to me is when it's a guy and his profile pictures with his like wife and 3 daughters or something, and you're like, what?
Without fail, every time. And you know what's always so weird to me? Have either of you ever had somebody come up to you in person and say anything remotely negative to you? No, of course not. So it's like these people,
outside
they hide behind.
Probably not.
Yeah.
No, I mean like in the Barstool universe, they hide behind their phones and they're just cruel for no reason. One of the things I like to do when somebody says something intentionally mean, cruel, meant to make me feel bad about myself or something I've said or done, I'll DM them and be like, hey man, what's up? And it's never women. It's always dudes. So I'm like, hey man, what's up? And a lot of times they're like, yeah, you're right. That was a little too far. It's like, yeah, you don't need to be part of the problem in this world that we're seeing in our society with people being ugly to each other. You know, when you have the other option to just be nice or not say anything at all. These are basics that we learn in kindergarten. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. And seemingly everyone forgot that lesson when they got a cell phone and Steve Jobs came along and gave us these things in our pocket every day and the old Twitter machine. It's just unbelievable to me how
I kind of like it. I feel like a lot of times it keeps me on my toes with these haters. Like where I need, like right now I'm wearing a super wrinkly shirt. I need somebody to roast me to hold me accountable to wear a shirt that's not wrinkled.
You know what? I think that's fine. Wrinkled shirt, that's fine. I'm talking about people like what Kate had to experience, like people telling her she looks old and she's not aging well. And I just think that's cruel for the sake of being cruel. And I don't like that one bit.
Maybe they're not wrong, but you don't have to tell me. I'm living it, pal. I'm living it. You don't got to say a thing. The other thing, though, I'll say really quick. Some of my followers should be top level, top secret clearance intel because I blurred out the guy's stuff and I deleted his comment because I didn't want anybody like going after him or whatever. But like,
nah, fuck that. Let him go.
Within 10 minutes, people were tagging his wife, being like, Charlene, look at what your husband, they found her so quick. I would just because
I want to know what that dinner table conversation was like.
Yeah,
because like she's pregnant. You're doing this to her when she's pregnant,
and
not a little pregnant.
She looked pretty similar to me, so I don't know.
That was the meanest self-owned no offense of all time. Okay, say no offense, but she looks like me. Yeah. What a self-owned.
Like, buddy, who are you criticizing here? Anyway, I'm
sorry. Last thing I'll say, I don't like you say those comments to you or to any of us, and then what do you sit back in your couch or your chair and think like, "Oop, got him," and you feel good about yourself?
Yeah,
what's the point? What's the end game? Like, ooh, roasted her. I just think it's so stupid.
When I first got on Twitter cons, I used to talk mad shit about Skip Bayless. I would go on there and be like, Skip, Tebow is not the end all be all. You are flat out wrong, my friend. And you're ugly.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Anyway.
I know. All right, let's get into round number 1 because I want to hear Cons' thoughts on this. Kate, what do we have here?
All right, swearing. Sorry, I'm just going to be coughing throughout the whole show.
No, yeah, just keep it going. Yeah.
I'm just going to keep it going. People love to hear it. I sound like I'm a coal miner or something. I got the black lung pop. This comes to us from CNN. Swearing benefits, which I love. I am a cusser. And I think, honest to God, it was the Marines that did it to me. Like, cussing became part of my vernacular, specifically enlisted, I think, probably, in a way that I still don't even hear it when I say it in front of like friends and family and stuff until I see it reflected on people's faces that are like, hey, we're at a funeral right now. Maybe stop dropping
cunt bombs.
Right. Yeah. So Polite Society, aka Captain Cons, aka Captain Kick Rocks, considers swearing to be vulgar and a sign of low intelligence and low education. The perception, as it turns out, is full of baloney. In fact, swearing may be a sign of verbal superiority, studies have shown, and may have other possible rewards as well. Timothy Jay, a professor of psychology at Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts, has studied swearing for more than 40 years. What a niche topic for a professor to get.
Right. When I saw that, I was like, what do you go out to dinner? Like, what kind of work you in? Cussin. I'm a big. I do a lot of Cussin research.
He says the advantages of swearing are many. Well-educated people with plenty of words at their disposal were better at coming up with curse words than those who were less verbally fluent. Participants were asked in one study to list as many words that start with F, A, or S in 1 minute. Another minute was devoted to coming up with curse words that start with those 3 letters. The study found that those who came up with the most F, A, and S words also produced the most swear words. So I'm thinking fart, ass, shit, fuck.
So that's what we're going to do. I have my phone ready to go. I'm going to put a clock up. Cons, you're going to go first. You name
I'm not participating. You don't have to
cuss. Listen to the rest of the. I'll go in. Okay. Any word that you can think, F, A, or S, and see how many you could do. And then we'll reset the timer and have Kate do it and see who wins, a heavy cusser or a non-heavy cusser. You ready, Cons? We're going to start with you. Kate, you count how many Cons is doing, and then I'll keep watching the clock, okay? F, A, or S. Those are the words. Ready, Cons? Hands up. No scrolling. Ready? 1. We gotta have integrity. We don't want Kirk Minahan and those folks coming after us for cheating for the number of words that you do. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Go, Cons.
Far, fa, farm, fat, shingle, ants, animal, aardvark, fellatio, oh man, this is harder than you think.
Yep. It is.
Wow, I can't think of any words. This does not bode well for me.
We're 33 seconds in, and what's he at, Kate? 7?
Society. Shambles. My life, my vocabulary is in shambles. Shoot.
There's 1. 12.
Shoot. Yeah. Singing. Signs.
14. All right, that's it. 14. Pretty good, Cons. You're really going to prove this study correct. So if Kate can come up with 14 or more, she actually wins. All right, Kate, you ready? Cons, you keep track. Okay. 1, 2.
What is it?
3.
ASF?
Yeah, A, F, or S. So go.
Apple, alligator, aardvark, anteater, Armageddon, Alexa, angle, angles, angler, anglefish, angel, food, fresh, fickle, fantastic, fantastical, foreign, foreigner, flame, flames, flaming, flog.
All right, so that's halfway through. Absolute domination. So it turns out the CNN article is correct. People who curse have a much more extensive vocabulary.
Yay!
Mm-hmm.
I could have kept going.
I don't agree with this. I don't agree with this study.
I
still think just because you can come up with words doesn't mean that you should use them in a polite society. I still think it may not necessarily be the sign of low intelligence, but I still think it's very uncouth to use cuss words.
Oh, I disagree. I like it. I've tried to stop, but I don't know if I can at this point.
See, here's the thing. A well-positioned curse word, I think, carries a lot of weight. When every other word out of your mouth is a cuss word, I kind of tune those people out. And they're almost like filler words. And I don't know.
Too much.
Yeah, you know what I appreciate?
We saw some of that at the Barstool Awards. There's a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What I do like, and I think drill instructors are excellent at this, is the made up cuss word. It's not necessarily a cuss word that's on anybody's radar, but they'll call you like okay, dingle nose. Like they'll pick dingle nose.
Hey there, kitchen gloves.
Yeah. Like they'll make something normal and turn it into a cuss word just for you. And I think that it takes a whole other level.
It's endearing. Yeah.
I agree. I think that's more impressive than cuss words. The drill instructors, drill sergeants, the things that they come up with, I think is a talent all its own. I think really any instructor in any military school, the way they're able to cut people down
prolific
is almost comical.
Yes, that takes a
very
level
much
of.
So.
It's like improv.
Quick-witted too.
They could be Second City, but for being cruel for good purpose. So good on them.
See, they probably make really, really good internet commenter too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to come up with some incredible things to say.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to round number 2. What do we have here, Kate?
All right, so God damn it, this fucking cough. Fox, I need a sick chit. Fox News apologized on Saturday to a Gold Star family for publishing a false story last month, claiming that the family had to pay $60,000 to ship the remains of their fallen relative back from Afghanistan because the Pentagon refused to pay. And I'll tell you, if I saw this story, I would be fucking I would be flipping out, especially from
big time.
Fox News, I still look at them as a news source. I still consider, I see something on Fox News, I'm like, they must have done the research.
You know what's so unbelievable now these days in 2023? I don't have any news source on television because I just, knowing what I know now about the business behind all of them, Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, all of them, I don't trust any of them. You have to see
it and then do your own research and do your own digging.
Yeah.
Be like, what do I do?
It's almost impossible way to do your own research. It's almost impossible because even the little websites, the Messenger is a new one that popped up. There's all kinds of ones that pop up and you don't know if it's legit or if it's not. It's hard.
Yeah. So the now unpublished stories, they had to take the whole thing down, which is a big deal in journalism, had been addressed internally, and we sincerely apologize to the Gee family, a Fox News spokesperson said. And they're referencing the family of fallen Marine Sergeant Nicole Gee, who was one of the 13 service members killed in a terror attack at the Kabul airport in 2021 while assisting with the U.S. withdrawal efforts. The apology, the retraction and the apology to the Gee family came only after military.com highlighted it this week and drew national attention to the issue. Top executives at Fox have been repeatedly notified by senior members of the Marine Corps, hey, everything about that story you guys published and the hullabaloo you're brewing over it is false. Every single detail is false. And they were ignoring it completely until military.com pushed the story out there enough. In an email to Fox News President Jay Wallace and other network personnel, Marine Corps spokesman Major James Stenger privately accused the outlet of capitalizing off Gee's death to score cheap clickbait points. You're right. I see a story like that. I'm clicking on it. I'm going, what the fuck happened here? That this fallen Marine's family had to pay $60,000. This is insane. That has viral written all over it. That anyone who creates a headline like that knows it.
Especially with the angle that they're coming at Biden forward, like the failure at Abbey, and then you add that on top of it. It looks like even a quagmire situation that was already horrific looks even worse that you allow this kind of thing to happen.
Yeah, and Stenger, he's the top spokesman for the Marine Corps, added that he viewed the behavior of Fox News disgusting, according to military.com. Fox is lucky Chief Warrant Officer Bobby Yarborough didn't have his hands on this.
Oh, big time. It'll give him the what for.
Initially, after being notified of the false report, Fox News only changed the headline on the story to attribute the claims of Republican Representative Corey Mills of Florida, who had advanced that narrative but later recanted. So once they were aware it was completely false, they still kept the story up just with a slight tweak. And then later they took it down
because it was getting clicks.
It was getting so many clicks.
Because they were getting clicks.
The outlet later scrubbed the story from its website without a correction or explanation, which is also a big deal. Deleting an entire story is exceedingly rare in the news media and is seen as a last-ditch measure if the entire premise of the article is incorrect. Deleting a story without offering readers an explanation or correction is considered widely across all journalism spectrums to be unethical. In this case, Fox News did not publicly address the incident until military.com ignited backlash against the outlet. And again, earlier this year, Fox settled a defamation case with election technology company Dominion Voting Systems over lies related to the 2020 election. Fox News paid Dominion a historic $787 million to avoid trial. I need someone to defame me because I got 2 daycare costs.
That guy that was telling you look old.
Yeah, no, he was right. He was right.
Go after his ass, Kate. One of the things about this that it is so clearly political because that representative from Florida, Mills, he issued a statement after, and he said, as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives, my only role is to represent and advocate for the American people. Due to the sensitivity of the matter, I felt requests for records from the Department of Defense without the family's consent would be inappropriate, given it was a Gold Star family themselves who approached me. I understand the family of Sergeant Nicole Gee was, in their time of grief, confused in regard to transportation proceedings, and I'm thankful for honoring our fallen was able to assist the family, and the DOD was able to provide clarification on the matter. Even in that, he's like, it's not my fault. Like, I didn't do that.
Right.
And he blamed the family of Sergeant Gee. Like, your responsibility as a congressperson is to know what the policies are for people that are being transported back after losing their lives and being killed in action, instead of creating an additional firestorm, which was, I would think, was the point of the things that he did.
Yeah, but we also know too, so much of the work that these representatives do are done by their staff, and they don't necessarily even see certain aspects of their job that they're slapping their name on. So you're putting your faith into whomever on your staff.
This is a big one though, right? Like, I don't think this is one that they go out there and do on their own accord. I feel like something going after the Marine Corps is one that you probably have to run by your boss.
Well, I think also
I think
also too, check in with the family of the fallen before you put stuff out there about them. Like, I just, to me, whichever side
from what
you're on, and whichever side,
from what I understand, it was her side. It was her family that had approached the congressman and was telling her this, because from what I've read, they're pretty involved with like far right politics, and so they approached this, and it was like a bigger story because it was something that they were perpetuating, and the Marine Corps had to come out and be like, no, this is not what happened at all.
Well, I was reading too, the family also said that they had to wait for an apology from this story coming out. So I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, that's what, like, you try to do the research, you try to find it, and you never find the beginning of it. You only find the shitty ends of what has been bastardized by many different sites. And I'm sure that we participate in that now. Like, somebody you listen, I say something inaccurate, Cons does, Kate does just a little bit, and the story gets tweaked, and you have a little game of telephone.
But speaking of, obviously, it doesn't take much. Like the story of the Afghanistan withdrawal and the 13 killed at the Abbey Gate, along with 170 Afghan civilians, is still such a boiling hot topic, and is so, people going either way on it. It's become a much greater political thing. I guess it was a political thing. The whole thing is very, I don't know what I'm saying right now. My brain is jelly. But I wanted to talk about, that was great. Clip that and put it up. I'm an idiot. Delete this whole 30-second segment right here. Speaking of, though, it was the second anniversary of the bombing at the Abbey Gate, which took 170 Afghan lives, and 13 U.S. service members were killed. And new details have come out over, they did FOIA requests. So Jerry Dunleavy, an investigator for the House Foreign Affairs Committee's investigation into the Afghan withdrawal, he was on CBS News over the weekend to discuss new info about the attack. And these were some of the key takeaways that I got from watching that interview. In the days leading up to the attack, and these are from this guy and his partner poured over thousands and thousands of pages that got released. And he said, he's like, we're probably the only two to have read through all this, like all these details. In the days leading up to the attack, the threat level was dire, to the point that by August 26th, the day of the bombing, the U.S. had intel that like it was almost imminent, and they knew that it would be Abbey Gate nearly down to the exact hour that it took place. In a sworn statement, an official said U.S. intel knew that ISIS-K was staging in a hotel about 2 kilometers from the airport, and that U.S. military intel knew this, and top brass asked the Taliban, because remember, at this point, the U.S. had relinquished all control except for their tiny little footprint at the Kabul airport. They had relinquished all control to the Taliban. So these troops, surrounded by thousands of Afghan civilians, were relying on the Taliban essentially as their security at this point. So top brass knew that ISIS-K was staged 2 kilometers away from the gate, and they had to ask the Taliban, hey, can you go conduct an assault at this hotel? Because they knew essentially that's where the bombers were setting up to attack Abbey Gate, and they had to blindly trust the Taliban would carry out an attack, and the Taliban never did. At this point, It reminded me, remember in the 70s, the Rolling Stones had a concert and they asked the Hells Angels to like be security, and then people died. Like, it's not gonna work.
Like I haven't read any of this stuff that you're talking about, Kate, and like just from the first sentence, it's infuriating, man. Like the things that our country does that nobody knows about or pays attention to in war zones is legit. That you're asking the people that we've been at war with for fucking 20 years to protect you, and like relying on them to do the right thing. It's just insane that's the things that we do. Insane.
So what could go wrong?
Here's the other part too.
Everything.
So Abdul Rahman al-Lughari, that was the bomber. He was once held at Bagram, and one of the main sticking points from critics of the Afghan withdrawal, of Biden's withdrawal, was that why didn't we do the withdrawal from Bagram? We had this whole last airport that was ours essentially. And that was where the big prison was. And that is where the bomber himself was being held. When we relinquished control and made our footprint just the Kabul airport, we handed over the keys to that prison. And one of the very first things the Taliban did was open the doors and let all those guys out. And Abdul Rahman al-Lughari, the bomber, was one of those guys. Okay, so they're saying, had we done everything from Bagram, held on to those keys, and then like tossed them out of the last plane and been like, okay, let the bad guys out, this bomber wouldn't have been out in the first place. The families of the 13 fallen have been invited to DC by the House of Foreign Affairs Committee to voice their concerns and demand accountability on Tuesday. So the show comes out, like, as you're listening to this, you can go watch that live.
And good. And we should, because that's the same thing happened when the Marine sergeant went and told his story after everyone came back. And it was like a couple weeks later. Do you guys remember that? And it was really
his Instagram. And his main thing, even yesterday, he wrote, my main focus is some form of fucking accountability for the love of God. And these hearings are about a year before the next presidential election. And they have so far split down party lines. So Republicans are lambasting Biden. Democrats have claimed, well, it's the decisions that Trump made leading up to this that are to blame. And again, no accountability from either side.
Just hate everyone.
Right.
I hate everyone.
So,
everyone.
I thought this was interesting. I read an article, a newspaper in St. Louis wrote about the family of a local Marine who was killed in the attack, 20-year-old Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz. And it talked about how the father and the mother are divided down these lines. The father, Mark Schmitz, thinks a lot about what to tell Congress investigating the attack that killed his son. He will be there on Tuesday and he will be speaking. He wants to know how long his 20-year-old son lived after the bombing at the gate. He says he doesn't know. Did he die instantly? Was it slow? Was it when he finally got to, like, as a parent, this would agonize.
You have every fucking right to know that too.
Every right to know
every right to know what they know. If you don't want to know, you have that right too. But if you do, you should be able to get every grimly detail that you possibly can.
He questions the official narrative of the attack, but most of all, he wants to expose what he thinks are cover-ups aimed at softening the blame for the bombing. And if you don't give people the facts when they're at their most emotionally vulnerable, they are going to search anywhere. And it makes them even more vulnerable. They're going to want to find any answer they can possibly grasp at. And anyone
I bet they read every single Reddit thread, every single thing possible that they can get their hands on to try to figure out. And who wouldn't?
And who wouldn't?
If that's your kid, you would. Or your buddy, your friend, you would do that.
He says, for us, accountability comes down to making sure history is written correctly. And this was from an interview in his home in Wentzville, decorated with memorabilia of his son and items of the Freedom 13, which is a nonprofit he created to honor those killed at the Abbey gate. The evacuation was not an extraordinary success, as Biden likes to say it was. This was a goddamn disaster. But
Biden's got to stop saying that shit. It's fucking absurd. Absurd.
But while the father, so Mike Schmitz, he's going to be going to Washington, D.C. He wants to speak. He wants to have his voice heard at this. Jared's mother, the fallen Marine's mother, Sue Schmitz, will not be joining. The parents divorced when Jared was about 2, and they have taken far different approaches to the political attention of his death. Sue Schmitz told the Post-Dispatch last year she believes the bombing is being used as a partisan political weapon And she said in a message to the Post-Dispatch this week that she plans to avoid the ongoing congressional hearings for the same reason. The timing of these hearings seems suspect to me. I will always find it difficult to believe that any politician cares more about my son and my family than their own political agenda. And here,
unfortunately, that's probably true.
On both sides of the fence, who are both right in their anger, both right in their suspicions of things, both right in their, and that is, I do believe both sides of the fence, and I hate to say it, that so many of these politicians care more about their own ass than any fallen service member, and that they use these fallen service members as pawns time and time again. They take advantage of vulnerable parents and family members. They take advantage of people at their, and they, I don't know, it's just fucking crazy.
Listen, I mean, even getting some of these quotes, right? Like even some of the quotes when like people are hot, they're angry, they're going through it emotionally, and you're reaching out and you're saying, hey, you kind of give them a leading question. The next thing you know, you have a quote out there from this family. When people, they should be allowed to grieve. Like this whole process, I agree with everything you just said, Kate. Everything. It's the Trump administration, the Biden administration, the current political climate, what we did in Afghanistan for 20 years, everything is bad. Like everything.
So that's the thing, chaps. I think it's important to point out that fact that the ownership for what happened can really be laid on a lot of different people's heads. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you want to have just one person that you could say, like, hey, take the accountability. And own this. No one's going to do that, unfortunately. Never. No one's ever going to say, like, hey, you know what, that was on me, because ultimately it falls on some politician, whether it was Trump, whether it was Biden, but it's just never going to happen. And unfortunately, I think as a result, those families will never get that closure, because no one will ever own the cluster that occurred that day.
And two, people forget, like, these Marines were still able to contact home before the bombing. And Mark Schmitz talks about his son calling him when he got there. The Marine told his father the airport was so tightly packed he couldn't lift his arms. It was one of the first times that I heard him sound legit scared. He flat out told me, I thought I was going to die. During calls home, Jared Schmitz also told his father he was exhausted working multi-day shifts without relief, trying to control the crowds at the gate. In his final call with his dad, he optimistically said he thought the situation was now somewhat under control. And meanwhile, he's calling his dad saying, I think things are getting better. And meanwhile, U.S. intelligence knows down to almost the hour that this place is going to get bombed. And that, to me, the whole thing, I just want somebody to stand up. And I mean, as a parent, I don't blame anyone for however they're feeling. I would have a hard time not wanting to go there and voice whatever was in my heart at the time. Like, I picture how worried my parents were for me, especially on the first tour. And I can't imagine being a parent who knew their kid was in Kabul at this time. Like, I cannot imagine it. So
I went out to eat and went to a brewery with some of my new buds here in town. And one of them, he's a Ranger dude. And we were talking about this, like with the 2-year anniversary of Abbey coming up and some of the parents that were involved. And he,
sorry, by the way, the fact that it was 2 years ago blew me away. I didn't realize it was that long ago. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So we were talking about how it would be like dealing with things like that. And he flat out said, if my kid came up to me now and was like, I want to join the armed forces, I would do everything in my power to be like, no, like not right now. This is not the time in American history to do that. And it's hard to argue. Like it really is, like, to look at it from everything that you could do in the military. When we joined early 2000s, everybody was like super high respect, no matter what. Like, if you're in the military, thank you for your service. It was very much that vibe. Now that vibe is gone, I would say that, and we've seen it even in our, like, trying to do trying to do donations for nonprofits like VFW. When we first started this show 7 years ago, if we put out a call to action to have people donate to a veteran cause or a military cause, there would be tens of thousands of dollars within hours.
Dude, the one night there was a Veterans Day, I forget what year, we raised nearly $100,000 in a matter of like 5 hours. It was unbelievable.
And because people were still like in it. Now, go years later, basically the same type of audience, the same Stoolies, the same thing. Now we're 2 months into a program and it's got like $3,000. People simply just don't care the same level, and they're suspect of, I think of everything.
I don't think it's that they don't care. I think that if I had to pick a word, it'd be disillusioned. It'd be like a complete disillusionment of like, what is real? Like,
I think sure, but with a little bit of apathy at the very least. Like, I just don't. Cons, what do you think? Because you're a little more flowery than us in a lot of ways. But do you? How do you feel? Like when you look at the scape of what's going on in America and how people feel about the military, what is your observation? Zero Blog 30 is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes we're faced with a crossroads in life, and if we don't know which path to take, it could be difficult. Maybe you're thinking about a career change or feeling like your relationship needs a little TLC. Whatever it is, therapy can help you map out your own future and trust yourself to find the way forward. I've been doing therapy through BetterHelp for a long time, and it's one of the things that has made moving up to Chicago a lot easier, is that they were able to help me find it. Because I don't know if you've tried to with your primary care physician or whoever, but trying to get into a mental health provider right now is difficult. It could take weeks. It's not that way with BetterHelp. They can get you in quickly. I was able to find a new therapist here in Illinois that was licensed in the state of Illinois, because it's not the same as Texas. They were able to help me with that really quickly. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/zero today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/zero. BetterHelp.com/zero.
I think a couple of things. I think the further we get away, excuse me, from 9/11, and we don't have that one thing to point to as to why people want to join the military, I think it gets more difficult to have that same feeling that we once had maybe 10 years ago or longer. I do still think it is a very honorable thing to do, to serve one's country.
Sure.
So, joining the military, I still think is something I would encourage someone to do, but I can also appreciate why, given in today's society, why one might be hesitant to do that. And it's weird to me that, given all the division in our country, it was always, the military was something that everyone could kind of get behind collectively and still say like, well, we all still, regardless of how you fall on the political spectrum, everybody supports the military. I don't know how true that is.
I don't think it's true anymore.
For anyone who follows like military social media, Pop Smoke is a huge one. And I think he had a great post over the weekend. He said, these motherfuckers talk about how morale is down because of woke agendas. Those are just annoyances. Morale is down because the government lost the war in Afghanistan. The barracks are moldy. The water on base gives people cancer. And top brass aren't held accountable. And people in the comments who are active duty, who are veterans, who are whatever, were saying like, yeah, man, I agree with you. And here's other official investigations confirm they failed Vanessa Guillen. They failed the crew of the USS George Washington. All these examples.
They charged the kid in the Nimitz. Like,
how do you expect us in the lower ranks to be held accountable when I have this huge disillusionment with the people at the top on both sides of the fence? Like, I don't know.
You have that coupled with, and I think, Cons, you nailed it, that right after 9/11, there was a common enemy. Like, no matter what side of the political spectrum you are on, you could look at the Taliban, you could look at ISIS, and essentially you could look at Iraq. You can look at Iraq as like the
And now
enemy.
We're pointing at each other.
Exactly right. And now that enemy has shifted to within. And so how do you recruit on leftist versus rightist, which is
right.
That's the conversation in America. Like it,
and
really
especially when the military is supposed to be apolitical. Right. The military is supposed to be apolitical,
right?
But it is, and that's the reality of it. But it is weird now, and I think it's come in these last couple of years, leaving Afghanistan, leaving Iraq. There's not that, even like when we were still in Iraq and Afghanistan, there was still like, all right, we're fighting ISIS, and
we have our stuff going on, but we still have this common goal.
Right. Now it's like we're not fighting anybody. Like Russia's doing their thing with Ukraine. We're kind of like quasi
and we have people sticking up for Russia. It's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting topic. I think you could go very, very deep on as to why the American public feels the way they do, and it hurts me as a veteran. I still want people to view the military as good people and people who ultimately are trying to do the right thing. But as you look around the landscape,
yeah,
it gets harder.
Still our very best. I feel. I truly believe that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
It's been so clouded. So
we need. It's funny. I hate to say it's like we need an enemy. We don't have an enemy right now. So because we don't have an enemy, we're like fighting each other.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, somebody mess around and find out. Give us a war to go fight.
Yeah, but somebody that we don't feel bad years later.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
It's just hard to be like, send us somebody else to kill. Like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but I guess sorry. And this is the last thing I'll say. It's like when there are no more wars to fight. And, I don't think there'll always be conflict in the world. That's just human nature. But when there are no more wars to fight, like what do we do? What does our military do? What purpose does our military serve?
Throw rocks at poles, Throw rocks at poles.
Hopefully just start giving some money back so we could use it for other things that we so desperately need.
Yeah. So
that would be great.
It's tough.
All right, let's move on to something that's it's depressing again too.
Yeah.
Round number 3.
This will be quick, but just terribly sad news from over the weekend. 3 Marines were killed when an MV-22 Osprey crashed on Sunday while training in Australia. And the Osprey, for anybody, it's the one with the 2
it's like the helicopter plane hybrid
with like the buns on the side of it. That's got 2 on the side.
Yeah, the buns one. Yeah.
20 more Marines on board survived. With 5 in serious condition in local hospitals. You can listen to audio you can find online of another airplane and watching the crash. And it's just like devastating to hear. The Osprey's safety record has drawn attention in recent weeks after a series of disclosures by the Marine Corps and Bell Boeing in the investigation into a crash that took place in June of 2022. That investigation revealed that Swift 11, that crash from June, crashed due to a long-standing and recurring engine flaw known as hard clutch engagement, or HCE. The investigation revealed that U.S. Ospreys, the entire fleet, has suffered at least 15 HCE malfunctions, though the root cause of the engine failure is a mystery to engineers. Buddy, I don't want to get on that fucking thing.
No, man. Like, you got to shut that fucker down, dude.
I mean, when the engineers can't figure it out, that's a bad sign.
So how does it take so many for be like, oh, this thing bad? Like once, maybe it's a fluke. Twice, you got to do it. I mean, I hate to say the word.
Do a safety stand down.
Yeah.
Well, so Marine officials have since ordered that key transmission part on that the Osprey. Any Osprey with more than 800 hours of flight time would have to replace those key parts that they're like, this is the mystery area. Let's just replace them. The Air Force actually grounded its fleet and did that. They brought all theirs into compliance. The Marines who ordered those parts have not.
The Marines come in, they're like, we know what's wrong with it. Ain't got no gas in it.
Yeah. Over the years, the V-22 Osprey has had 15 hull loss accidents that have resulted in a total of 54 fatalities. This was the second deadly crash involving Marines in less than a week. On Thursday, Marine Major Andrew Mettler was killed when his F-18 Hornet crashed near Miramar, California. So just sending love to all those Marines, the family. I mean, the Air Wing is such
the aviation community is that aviation community goes through it, man. Like, it seems like there's accidents that happen consistently. Awful.
Yeah, just terrible.
But I mean, I think we take it for granted because, again, you train all these pilots go through years. I mean, that is easily the one of the most difficult things to do in the military is become a pilot of any aircraft because of the amount of time that goes into training them. And I think we just kind of take it for granted that if no one is shooting at them, like, they'll just stay in the air and never have any problems. And clearly that's just not the case. And I was trying to think, like, why would we keep flying these Osprey if they continue to have problems? And I kind of likened it to, if you spent a lot of money on a house and there was a problem, you just try to fix it before you'd be like, give up on the
why
house.
did we stay in Afghanistan for 20 years?
Yeah, I mean,
We're
that
already
could be
for this
it's like,
far. We spent a lot of money on this so far, so I guess we.
well, that's what it is. When you're that pot committed, you kind of like try to
your
like
Disney vacation as a family whenever there's a hurricane and tornado like
Right.
going on. You're like, no, well, we already paid for the wilderness lodge. We're gonna stay.
To again, I don't know who would be the one person that would ultimately have to own this, but to have to admit, like, hey, this aircraft that we've spent not like millions, but tens and hundreds of millions, probably even close to billions at this point. Yeah, that was kind of a failure. We're just going to walk away. That's just not how we're operating in the military, unfortunately.
All right. So question on that, Cons, on that line of thinking, because the last two things that we've talked about, we want somebody to stand up and take accountability. How much would you have to be paid in order for, in this period of history, 20 years, 25 years in history, for you to be on the record as saying everything is your fault? Like, where if you're Googled by AI, like, what happened here? And it would come back to be like, Connor Crehan said that he did this, and this is the reason why it happened, where you're on the record of being wrong in the cause of every major world disaster of the last 20 years.
So it would have to be an amount of money that I could really not have to concern myself with the world anymore, to where I wouldn't have to get it. Yeah.
No, it's after you're dead. It's your legacy.
Wow.
It's your legacy.
Jesus.
So whenever you die, nothing good that you ever did comes up. Like anything that you did good in the world, it's only when somebody, why did 9/11 happen? Well, Captain Cons actually said that he was the cause. Like, so all these bad things, how much do you think you'd have to be paid?
Man, I don't know. That's a different question altogether. It's interesting. I was watching a show recently, and it was Matthew Broderick. It's all about the Oxycontin problem in this country. And one of the things they were talking about was how the person who created dynamite, an obituary was put in the newspaper mistakenly that said he had died. It was actually his brother who passed away. But the obituary, he read it, and it was all about how he created dynamite, and it caused obviously all these problems throughout history and killed all this many amount of people. And he's like, holy crap, I don't want my name to be associated with that amount of death. So then he went and created the Nobel Peace Prize. It was Nobel who created dynamite, and he created the Nobel Peace Prize. This is I'm going off what was said in the show. So just take me at my word. I think this is accurate.
No,
I'm going to believe it. I'm going to believe it.
That's his legacy now. The Nobel Peace Prize, the complete opposite. So that's what you're talking about here. It's like, do you want to be remembered for death and destruction, or do you want to be remembered for something for good? Because that was the whole family behind Oxycontin. They had bought up
the Purdue family.
Purdue, yeah. No, but that's actually not it's the Sackler family.
Oh yeah, the Purdue.
In the Sackler, yes, they invested all this money into museums and the arts, because that's what they want their family legacy to be. Not, oh, hey, you created this drug that became an epidemic and killed hundreds of thousands of people who became drug addicts as a result. So
but
interesting.
Instead, you took that money that you did all that with, and you donated to some Picasso museums. So.
Yeah, so I don't know. It'd have to be probably north of 100 million, I guess, in an answer to your question.
Okay.
Again, nice pontoon boat, man. It's probably all it would take, because I'll be dead. What do I care?
I think a couple mil, that's all I need.
No, you know what?
Once you're dead, you're dead, so.
I almost feel like anyone who stepped up at this point and was like, I'm here to take accountability, and here were the lessons learned from my mistakes for anyone moving forward on either side of the fence, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And somebody needs to take accountability. And I'm taking a deep look at myself, and here's my mistakes. I feel like they would be celebrated.
They'd be lauded. Yes.
So many of us are so desperate for that person. Where are you? Step up. Oh.
Even if you
had nothing to do with it.
It's giving out blowies at 7 months pregnant. That's some serious shit.
With a bad back.
Right. I mean, I totally agree. Like, even if you're somebody who the general public knows that you probably didn't have total control. Like, if you're a senator on like the Senate Arms Committee and you have presidential aspirations, if you came out and you were like, I should have done a lot more research here, like I voted yes and these are how my votes have affected what happened here, so I'm going to take responsibility for some of these things, people would go bananas over
Someone
that.
who's genuine,
because you know what else?
Transparent, has the facts and has lessons learned. My God.
Yep.
Because you know what else
comes
about our
up with
country?
the progress of like how they're going to try to,
or if it's
like,
a lady,
fix things. Yeah, they'll get licked up. Yeah.
But I'm telling you, look at our country. We are a forgiving bunch. Okay, people. Jesus, how many times did Ted Kennedy get reelected?
All you have to do is be hot. Just
or not. Like, you don't even have to. Like,
you just have to apologize. People will ultimately forgive
Trump
you
for January 6th already.
Yes. You just need a hottie to step forward and say, it was my fault. I won't even look into it. I'll say, I trust.
I'm telling you, the country will forgive you.
Boom, dump them out. Elected. All right, let's move on to some save.
Did we just fix America?
I think we did. Yeah,
I think we did.
We're just.
I'm telling you, the consulting company that we're going to start one day is going to be money making.
The biggest thing you could do to get elected president is to admit that you're wrong. Like that.
Yes.
Like, at this point, anybody that admits that they made a mistake.
It's so easy too, because we've gone so far the other direction where, you know, passing the buck has become, you know, not just the norm,
but an art form.
You know, an art form. Mm-hmm. So if you go just the littlest bit, like, no, that was me. Like, wait, you're taking responsibility for the Holocaust? You weren't even alive, and you're not from Germany. No, that was me. I mean, people will be like, wow, accountability, unbelievable.
You fucked up Afghanistan. You were the one. Take my butthole. Here it is.
For those of you not watching on YouTube, Kate has put her butthole in the air like a cat. So
I do have hemorrhoids, but
let's move on to some save rounds and alibis. Kate, we'll start with you and your hemorrhoid sitch.
Buddy, my holes are so jacked up at this point. This baby's going to blow me apart. I just, it's all I can think about, really, at this point. I feel like I've got a bomb, it's like a time bomb. You guys, anything?
Cons?
Yeah. I mean, we can get more into this in the next episode, but so was packing this past weekend to go down the shore. And I'll tell you what, now, you know, as you both know, packing to go anywhere, Nick as well, packing to go anywhere with a child, there's a lot involved in terms of what goes into it. And I look back to my time in the military, and like packing lists and PCCs and PCIs have really prepared me to be a parent. And one thing that really stood out 2 weeks ago, Alex and I were separated, going different places, and then meeting up later in the day. And I went into the diaper bag and I couldn't find certain things. And I was like, wait, why did you not put everything back in the diaper bag where it's supposed to be in the diaper bag? So, you know, like if I hand the diaper bag to you, you know exactly where everything is, because there's an SOP to the diaper bag in terms of where are the wipes, where are the extra diapers, and you know where everything is. Yep. SOPs exist for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just interesting how I didn't realize it, but the military absolutely prepared me in some aspects to be a parent. And then one more thing, and then I have a question for Chaps, but college football is back. Navy got absolutely throttled by Notre Dame. My goodness gracious, from heaven above. Army opens up at ULM this weekend, Saturday night. Very, very
huge
excited
rivalry
for
game
that.
There.
The big Army ULM rivalry renewed for another season.
Yeah.
But I'm interested. We know we got a brand new offense this year. I'm interested to see how things go.
We're still doing the option, right?
Yeah, but it's like a new fangled version of the option. It's a lot more shotgun. It's, you know, because I won't go too deep into it, but there were some rule changes that negatively affected how we could run the option in terms of blocking. So we had to adapt. If you don't adapt, you die. So we've adapted, and we'll see how that goes for us this season. And then lastly, Chaps, do you have anything to say for yourself with your performance on the dog walk draft and the desserts that you selected when you did top desserts?
No chocolate anywhere.
Behind it 100%. I don't like chocolate. Like you hear what happens when I get brownie throat. I don't want that all the time.
Okay.
For me, key lime pie is. I was surprised that you disagree with the key lime pie because that's a good steak restaurant staple. To break through all the different salt and things that you have, the acidity and the lime is perfect for a nice steakhouse. And I believe that it's the number one purchased dessert at steakhouse is a key lime pie for that purpose.
We're gonna have to look that up. I don't know if that's true.
I just made it up. Second, banana wafer pudding is god tier. That's a god tier dessert.
Bananas start turning brown.
I got it.
I don't know, like
not inside if it's done correctly.
The things you selected, on their own in a vacuum are perfectly fine. But the fact that there were so many things out there that you could have picked first, unbelievable. Dan
picked ice cream, like 3 different types of the same ice cream.
Bro, what's more American than ice cream?
Nick is saying team won, and cannoli was on there. A lot of
that is correct.
Nick for
cannoli stink.
Cannoli
stink.
By the way, only the Italians had their nationality but truly represented on that because we're the only ones that step up to the plate. Tiramisu, cannoli was there.
Tiramisu was that was honorable mention, right?
No,
I don't think it actually got selected.
I could eat a whole tiramisu right now. Whole big tray of it.
Could have been.
Yeah, but to answer your question, I stand by icons because I pick for it myself and I'm a man of integrity. I pick what I actually would pick, not what the audience wants to hear. My top 5 is what I picked.
All right. Well, you know what? In that regard, I respect you for being true to yourself. I think that's
coconut cream cake is delicious too. Wonderful.
Okay.
I like more mild desserts.
Yeah.
All right.
And then,
so
and then you still, it was the first time a lot of those folks had heard that you do cookies in an orange juice, which is just
I do cookies
ridiculous.
But it's
anyway.
my favorite. So last week when I was coming home, I think it was Thursday, and I've been talking about riding my bike, and I still love riding my bike. I was going home, and I took a shortcut through a neighborhood that's probably not the best neighborhood to go through. There's a couple of those in Chicago for you Fox News watchers. I'm sure you've heard of it. But I went through a neighborhood, and I felt like the back end of my bike start to like fishtail out. And I was going like 30 miles an hour and it started fishtail out. So I slowed down, looked to see what had happened. And the entire back tire was completely shredded, like to the point where the rim was hitting the ground. There was no riding it anywhere, not like on a flat tire, nothing. I was in, if not number 1, the number 2 most dangerous spot in Chicago. And looking around, I was like surrounded in an area where I should not have been. And I was riding a yellow e-bike with my yellow ass helmet with pancake stickers
Nerd
on
alert.
it while wearing a yellow shirt. And so I'm just like all yellowed out. Thank God that's not a traditional gang color. It's yellow.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just hanging out there, and I had to get to a place where I felt comfortable for Annalise to even come pick me up. So I had to pick up this bike that's like 60, 70 pounds. It was not rolling because of how messed up it was. And there's no like assist. So I had to like pick it up, walk it probably like 0.3 of a mile, which it isn't that far, but it's at the same time carrying something that heavy with your adrenaline going.
And also it's awkward. It's not an easy 60 pounds to carry. That's like an awkward.
I had it like up on my shoulder, like trying to go, and I had like the back end up on my shoulder with the with the front tire down, so it would try to roll just a little bit. And I thought, I did not ORM this. Like my risk assessment was bullshit. I should get in. I'm thinking like, what, like how, why did you do this?
Why are you in this situation?
You could check Google. You should know what route you're taking. What's the difference of 5 minutes faster? 5 minutes faster is nothing. Like all those different things that I would be telling my kids now is like, dad me. I'm sitting there talking mad shit in my own head. And Annalise, I'm like, you need to come get me. And she could tell in the certain tones that I have that I'm not fucking around, like that tone that comes. I'm like, you need to get in the car now and come get me. She's like, well, tell me some things that are around you. I'm like, I have my location on. Put in Google to my location. And she's like, well, can you find like a place? I'm like, just fucking start driving. And I'm never like directives to her at all. I'm like, Annalise, we're not having a conversation. Grab your keys, get in the car, and start driving towards my location. And she finally like, oh, he's not kidding. Like, he must really be in a bad spot. And then so she did hurry, and that whole was like 30 seconds. But in that 30 seconds, when you're there and you need assistance, it's like when you're on the radio, like, we need backup fucking now. And 5 minutes feels like an eternity. I'm sitting there like wondering what's going to happen if she doesn't get there. But thankfully she did. It was the first time I've had like legit pucker factor in a long, long while. Made the old heart pitter patter. It was a nice little wake up call. Still got it in me,
you still acted appropriately there. Sorry. All right. Last thing. I used an example of the Holocaust like 10 minutes ago. That was a bad example. That wasn't a good example. Sorry. About like taking ownership of doing something bad.
We're just driving.
People in this country, people forgiving in this country. I think largely people do forgive because like
look at that. So, Khan's admitting that he's wrong. People are going to
I was wrong. That was
something
a bad,
egregious, and
that was a bad
responsibility. If you set that up, genius move on the podcast. Just genius. Say something absolutely foolish and then double back before the end of the podcast. You know what?
Accountability, man.
I forgive you. Like I do.
You.
Like I know it's big of me, but that's all it needs. A simple apology is all it takes. See, Biden, it can be done.
Yeah, exactly.
And